to the Cajun dance and the Zydeco. Filet gumbo and a crawfish pie. Filet gumbo and a crawfish pie.
Welcome to Literary Gumbo, a continuing look at the world of writers, writing, publishing, and all other peripheral events. My name is Fred Klein. I'm the chief stirrer. And my guest today is a man named Robert Jones, who has experienced something that's absolutely amazing and has written, he and his wife have written a book about this. Welcome, Robert.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice to
Pleasure
have
to be
you
here.
here.
Thank you.
But I want to save that big surprise till later because I want to know more about you. I want to know about your early days. I know you live part-time in Santa Barbara now, but where are you from originally?
Well, I'm originally from East Texas, a small town called Longview.
Oh, wow.
Went to elementary school, then came to Santa Barbara. And then
Right from there?
No, I came here in junior high and then eventually went to San Marcos High.
Your family moved here out here?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
My family originally moved to Los Angeles, and then my mother remarried here, and my
Santa Barbara.
dad was living here.
So you went to school in Santa Barbara?
San Marcos High.
Oh my God!
A great Royals fan.
Yeah. Go on.
My three sons that I have all went to Santa Barbara High.
Uh-huh.
And then graduated in the early 60s or mid 60s out of San Marcos.
Yeah.
And got to kind of live in that generation.
Uh-huh.
Played rock and roll bass guitar, local bands here, all the old bars and the restaurants.
Wow.
And then wound up living in Canada for a bit.
Uh-huh.
And from Canada, wound up living in India. And then from India...
Oh, wait, well, I guess you're getting into the business world because now
No, sorry, I'm still into the 60s.
You're still in the 60s? Oh, good. You were doing a lot of traveling, a lot of moving around. Okay.
Yeah, in those days.
Uh-huh.
And we just kind of moved back and forth, and then eventually met my wife on a Greek island. And she was visiting from her sister, I believe, from Philadelphia.
Uh-huh.
And I was visiting a friend on the island of Hydra. Most people know it as Leonard Cohen's island, because that's where he was from.
Uh-huh.
And we both kind of fell in love and did the Greek fall in love thing.
Oh, okay.
And
that's great. But what were you doing? Were you in business, or were you at that moment still just traveling?
Well, at that moment,
because it looks to me like you've done a number of businesses.
I had done a few businesses. I was running a bookstore and art gallery in Toronto, and the art
bookstore.
Yeah, the art was from Tibet, and that's why I lived in Nepal for 3 years. So I would buy art in Nepal from the Tibetans, and then we would take it into Canada, and we would sell books and Tibetan art. Right.
But the books were art books alone, or was just it was also a regular bookstore plus the
books were primarily metaphysical.
Books
on alternative religions, lifestyles, yoga, all that. And that was in the very early 70s.
Uh-huh.
So.
Yeah, well, go on, because at some point you also had a travel
That's
agency.
True.
Where was the travel agency?
The travel agency we had for 30 years. We sold it last year. It was here in Santa Barbara.
What was it called?
Travel World.
Travel World.
And that was bought by a company called Travel Store out of Los Angeles, and they're there right now. But no, that was 30 years and a pretty interesting business.
I was just going to, I want to stay with that because I've, as one who have done some traveling, the world of selling travel seems to me to be fascinating. I mean, number one, don't you you have to come up with new exciting places all the time. I mean, how do you discover places?
Well, I think one of the best ways to discover places is to travel and go visit them.
It's just go, yeah.
Yes, and I think because I felt I had traveled for many, many years, that I could be a travel agent, that I could buy a travel agency and do that. But not necessarily true.
But there's heavy competition, isn't there?
Extreme.
There are And today, I mean, today has to be wild with, again, I just use Uber as an example, but with Airbnb, I mean, what the hotels do now, it seems to me that this is a time of ferment.
Yes. There's a lot of competition
Yeah.
from every type of angle, and people know the internet, people know how to look things up. A successful agency today is doing something where they know what you know, and you may know even more, but the travel professional knows how to kind of tie it together for you. And a lot of people like to do it on their own, but there's a lot of people who have traveled around the world and are very well traveled, but they like to have somebody who's kind of watching the entire trip
But
for
aren't
them.
there hot places, today that were not yesterday or will not be tomorrow?
Well, that's true. That's true.
But don't you have to have some insight or inside information on some of that stuff?
That or
no?
just listening to the people, listening to them tell you what excites them. That's probably the more important, rather than leading them to a place, but finding out what really would interest that person. And there are a lot of very interesting places in the world, and some kind of come and go, and Costa Rica was like the end place. Tahiti was one of the end places.
Yes, one of our
Now
friends
Africa.
here, one of our friends just came back from Cuba. And
Cuba
they're
is
trying
the
to
new-
open Cuba.
Cuba, a fantastic country. The hotels, the tour companies realize, the cruise lines, that a travel professional kind of right there with you, helping you, is a very valuable commodity for them. And so the competition is kind of...
So wait, you're a travel agent traveler? You go along with them, is that it?
No, but for us to really get to know places, we were offered by tour companies, cruise
go
lines,
there in
to
advance.
experience the product.
Yeah,
to
in
see.
advance, yeah.
So there's an advantage then to have gone to a place and to actually be able to share that experience with the client. So.
But then now wait, what was the other thing that you've done that you haven't mentioned at all yet? That you had a business. Here it is. What is it? International Processing and Distributing Company. What was
the
that?
product was a very interesting product, and the company is the largest provider in the United States of goat milk products. They manufacture not milking the goats, but buying all of the raw product and processing it into pasteurized goat milk, evaporated, powdered.
But all around goat milk?
That is only in specific product, and if you go into all of our stores locally in Santa Barbara, you would find the product. In every refrigerated section, you'd find the product.
You do find
Milk,
goat?
cheese, yes.
Really?
Next time you're at Whole Foods or you're at Lazy Acres or
Never
you're at
heard
Ralph's,
of that.
you can find
And goat milk is something special? I mean, it's got healthy
yes.
auras about it?
Yeah. There's a lot of people that firmly believe
How
it's
did you
easier
get
to take
into
that.
that? How did you get into that, though?
Actually, that is a family business.
Oh,
That at one point, when we had my wife and I had the bookstore in Canada, and we closed that, we actually went into the family business and went to the Ozark Mountains and lived in the Ozarks for 8 years, and I learned the processing part of the business. And then later we purchased all of our
You
competition.
didn't milk goats. You didn't milk goats.
I know how.
But you do know how.
I do know how to do that.
All right. I won't ask you to demonstrate.
That's all right. That's right.
All right. Well, are we getting close to? Because neither your wife nor you have written before. Is that correct? I mean, in terms of having a book published.
I have not had anything published.
Has she?
And
Because
she
she's
has not.
No.
She has not. My wife.
But you consider yourself a photographer now, primarily, or what?
My wife is the photographer. She did all of
she
the
was the
photographs.
artist. I got the feeling that she was the
But
artist.
she also did all the photographs in the book.
Oh,
And
okay.
they are all done at the moment. Nothing is set up. It's just
All right,
live
now we have to
photos.
tell you what the book is. recite the name of the book, which will.
The book is The Refugee Crisis, Through the Eyes of the Children, Lesbos, Greece.
And it is a fascinating, and so
Thank you.
timely now that I can't believe that it hasn't come out before. Would you please now sort of bring us to that island, the Greek island
Yes.
of Lesbos?
Yes, it's Lesbos is an extremely beautiful island.
Wonderful.
Quintessential
Great
Greek.
island, yes.
Wonderful. People making their living on fishing and a little tourism and a little olives.
I visited as a tourist. Yeah.
And we've been going there, as we discussed, we have a house there. We've been going there for 42 years.
Okay.
And it just turns out that this island happens to be extremely close to Turkey. We are 5 miles off the Turkish coast. And starting in April, a little bit earlier, of 2015.
2015, that's important.
Our island had a few people coming across on rubber rafts, and they were trying to get out of the Syrian war. Refugees, and they had made it to Turkey, and they were trying to make their way to Northern Europe. Our island was between Turkey and Northern Europe, and we went from 100 refugees a week to 100 a day to 500 a day. Our village has 1,000 people. We wound up by the first week in December of 2015, in a 6-month period, we had 436,000 refugees arrive by raft on our island. And then it continued at 3,000 a day for the next 4 months.
And they were coming from Turkey, or they were also coming from Africa and other locations through
Turkey was their jumping off point. Greece was their first landing point.
But some of the boats, weren't there capsizes? Wasn't there, the weather I would think would be a factor.
Yeah. And it was, it's a very narrow strait, deep water, and they're in rubber rafts that are built possibly for
orange
8 people.
Orange rubber rafts.
They're wearing orange vests that you could see on the horizon, but they're in these rafts, instead of the 8 to 10 people they could have been designed for, there were 40, 50, 70 people. Men, women, children, infants, people with wheelchairs crowded in by smugglers into these tiny rafts and just sent off from the Turkish mainland and said, you see
People
that
paid
here.
to go on those rafts, though, right? They paid exorbitant prices to get onto the rafts to get to.
The smugglers charged them between $1,200 and $1,500 per person. Per person, and many times the people paid, and they would be guaranteed a raft with 30 people. And right as the raft was ready to take off, the smugglers would force 20 more.
20
on.
more. Oh wow.
And in the height of the crisis, which would be probably October of 2015, these rafts were coming just constantly to the island. So,
but then you and your wife got involved.
it's hard not to get involved in a tsunami. All right.
Yeah, I would say.
Yes, we living in the village, villagers, a few very small groups of volunteers. No large organizations. This happened extremely abruptly. No one really anticipated it. It was Greece. It's not a third world country.
And Greece is still going through economic problems, isn't it?
The financial crisis in Greece was serious and is serious and is becoming serious.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's the financial crisis. The Greeks have burdened a lot. And the one thing they haven't done is they haven't built any fences. They allowed these hundreds upon thousands of people.
But there's a limit, isn't there?
Yes.
Where do you go from? It seemed to me they came in and then they had to go to camps and whatever.
What they were doing they were in transit through Greece. Their idea was no one wanted to stay in Greece.
Yeah,
they wanted to go to Germany. They wanted to go to Sweden. They wanted to go to to Great Britain. No one wanted to stay in Greece, but slowly the Hungarians originally, then the Bulgarians, then the Albanians slowly started building fences along the northern Greek border.
So they couldn't go there?
They couldn't get out,
Oh.
and so they started getting stuck in Greece,
Uh-huh.
on the mainland, and now
On
on
the
the Greek
mainland
islands. And on the Greek island. Our island has a total population, the island is very actually large, of about 80,000 people. We have around 5,000 full-time refugees in camps right now that can't go anywhere. They can't get to the main.
Can't go.
There's nowhere for them to go.
Really?
No, if they go to the main,
But wait, but is the percentage still as lopsided now as it was in 2015? I mean, have things calmed down there? I mean, it seems to me that they haven't. But
well, what has happened is that the EU made a deal with Turkey, and Turkey is now not allowing smugglers to leave their shores. So Turkey has control of the situation. And that is a very precarious situation given Turkey's relationship a little bit with the EU right now.
certainly with America too. I mean,
And it's
day by
strenuous.
day,
Yes.
the big shot is really sort of a nut, isn't he?
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. And we are now receiving only about 25, 50 refugees a day. It has really, the tide has slowed.
come down.
And it abruptly stopped from the 3,000 down to like 100 a day very quickly. We have Turkish Navy, Greek Navy, NATO Navy, all in this 5-mile stretch trying to stop refugees from coming. But the refugees, I think they're still, the estimates are around 3.2 million are sitting in Turkey right now. Okay.
Wow.
So it is something that no one is.
And there's
quite-
no ending, and okay.
no simple answers.
But now wait, but now you guys got involved.
Yes.
And what did you do? I mean, to begin with, there are photographs. Talk about your wife and the art,
Yes.
the children's art.
We're just again people living in a village, and this was happening, and many tourists coming to visit started to help. The Greeks, of course, were doing a lot of this. Started doing things like just helping people off rafts, getting people warm clothes, trying to get people a sandwich. A sandwich. The most that we were ever able to provide would be a cheese sandwich, a banana, and a glass of fruit juice. And that is basically all that could be provided to refugees when they arrived. There was no organizations to do much more than that.
Medical attention.
Fortunately, two incredible groups, Doctors Without Borders and Israel Aid in particular,
I want to talk about both of those.
showed up immediately.
Really?
Immediately, they were doing triage on the beaches. People.
Doctors Without Borders, I know, and I just think it's fabulous.
Yes, I think.
But what is Israel Aid?
Israel Aid is.
ISRAAID.
Yes,
Okay.
Israel Aid is. If we think of it as Doctors Without Borders, but
Okay.
it is primarily from Israel, and it's Israelis, Palestinians working together. And they go to Haiti, they go to all places of disaster. So think of it as,
so they don't-
as an Israeli Doctors Without Borders type thing. They send psychologists, doctors, nurses,
Really?
EMTs. They show up on the beach, groups of, like Doctors Without Borders, groups of 5, groups of 8. And they show up and they just go to work, and they're just there. People, if you can imagine these rafts.
Has anybody, has any national organization? I'm thinking of the public now, of letting the public know. I know we see statistics and all of that, but the day by day having those organizations.
The organizations are doing fabulous jobs around the world.
And they should get the
They were
credit
just
for it.
slow to respond. They took months to show up, but when they started showing up to help with certain things.
Why would Israel do it?
Israel Aid, why did they show up in Haiti? Because why did they show up in Turkey for the earthquake?
Because
they
they
showed
care
up there
about
for
people.
tornado. They show up like Doctors Without Borders,
Yeah.
and they're nimble. They're nimble and they're dedicated, and a lot of people, normal people such as my wife and ourselves, would be there to help give people rides in cars, to try to get them across the island, to bring food, to carry water, pick up trash, lug life vests off the beach. Things that just happen. When this type of thing occurs, it's amazing how people show up to help. And that was basically the scenario. So,
but is there any end in sight? There isn't an end in sight.
Right now there's a lull.
A lull?
A lull.
Okay.
And maybe things will get situated. Greece itself has 70,000 refugees still, of the 1.2 million or so that went through. Remember, but there's no way for them to go through any longer.
I want you to, I don't know how we're going to do this. Your wife taught them art. The kids, primarily the kids. And
Yes.
you now have, in some of the stuff, you've got fabulous, fabulous art. I want you to sort of go through and maybe give me some commentary on what some of the stuff is.
Well, what was happening is that the children were coming off the raft wet. They had to cross the island at some point. The island is about 45 miles across. There was no transportation. But at a certain point, the UNHCR came up and started providing some buses. And so we had a kind of a transit camp about 3 miles from the beach. And what would happen is we would have sometimes 7,000 people in this camp, which was not a camp, it was a parking lot from a disco with 3 toilets on a good day. And one of the things, my wife was a trained art teacher, on top of actually being a fantastic travel consultant, but she has an art degree. She is teaching in California and in Arkansas, Philadelphia. And she saw these children, which we would pack in our car soaking wet, and we would kind of take them to this camp. And when we didn't want to do that, we realized that there was something to do for the children. So she would lay out just a tablecloth and take colors and pieces of paper. And these children are huddled around a tent or in the parking lot with their parents waiting to get on a bus.
To go
Nobody would know
someplace
when the bus is coming.
And where it's
to
going.
go somewhere, they don't know where they're going. Many are, you can see it in their eyes, they've been through a tragic, dramatic event.
And we're
And
talking,
yet,
the kids are...
I'm talking children.
8 years old.
I'm talking 4, 5, 6,
4,
7.
5, 6.
So my wife would just set this tablecloth out, and she would have the pencils and white paper, and she'd just go, okay. And she would here, show them. And the children would be shy, and some of them withdrawn, some of them exhausted, but they would kind of show this interest as a child might
Well, I
show
love
an
the
interest.
the whole
And so they would
waves
start
and all of that
just
stuff.
drawing.
Yes. Oh,
And so they would draw tanks.
I think some of that
They would
stuff.
draw flags. They would draw the mountains with the sea,
Uh-huh.
the fish. They would draw boats. And what started to happen with a lot of the children is we started to notice a blue streak.
Is that how?
Was almost in every drawing.
Uh-huh.
And now these children weren't working together. These are day after day.
Individual-
We'd go out,
individuals, yeah.
and my wife would set this project up for them.
Uh-huh.
And it turned out that the children were envisioning the water they had just crossed.
Gone through, yeah.
And in some of the fantastic drawings the children did, there are one side of the drawing, there's tanks and people actually shooting each other. And on the other side of this blue streak, houses with beautiful fruit trees and things of that nature. And one of the more, if I could just find it very quickly, I would have marked this for you, but at any rate, we are still discovering things in the book.
Where are all those pieces of art now? Where is all that kids' art?
For instance,
Yes,
this
that's-
is a
that's
child
yeah.
that it took us a number of months to realize that he had the tanks and all that up here, the crossing. The sun now has a smiley face here. It's a sad face up here. But right in the middle is a raft. And later we blew this photo up, and there's bodies floating
In
in
the
the
rock.
water.
Oh, wow.
So this is what these children.
But
had
where's
just
that art now?
experienced.
Do you have that art?
We
Is-
do.
Have you gone to, I'm trying to, gallery or someplace? You've got to have that stuff shown.
We take this art and we have it, we've taken it to a number of presentations that we do in Santa Barbara. Almost anyone that invites us, we show up from.
Now, retirement
take it-
homes.
We have not. We've done the synagogue, the Greek church, the Unitarian Society, Rotary, the Natural History Museum. UCSB has invited us a number of times.
Retirement communities and programs.
If we were asked, we would show up, and we bring the original art so that people can touch it
That's
and
what
see
I
it.
want it in a gallery so
And
that the public can see it.
We've set it up in Los Angeles we've done a show.
Could
but
that
it's
could
available for us to show it. That's what we.
Yeah. But
That's what we're here to do. We're here to kind of bring a human face to the numbers that you're talking about.
and Lesbos is just one of the places that all of that happened. I
This is
mean,
happening
it's still
around the
going
world.
on and still going on.
Yes,
But I
yes.
think that some of that children's art is absolutely breathtaking. And I think I would love to see it
it
on
is-
display in a public place.
It is real. It is on, I think the title of the book is Through the Eyes of the Children, and we have a website, Through the Eyes of the Children.com, so that people can see it that way. But we are willing, we have displayed it almost everywhere that we've been asked to do it. And we also, when this was happening, the beaches were horrific, from the thousands upon thousands of people. And we have a collection of art, of things, people's identity papers, and things that people throw away when they land on the beach. Things that they think, oh, this associates me back with what I've gotten out of. And so they throw things away. And we like to show that to people too. So
Well,
the
wait,
art
is there a website? Do you have a website specifically?
Yes.
What is it?
It is the title of book, Through the Eyes of the Children.com.
.com. Through the Eyes of the Children.
Through the Eyes of the Children, yes.
Because this has got to go all
And
over
it has
the country.
it has not only the photographs of the art. I mean, not just the art itself, but photographs of the child
Or the
actually
kids.
holding their
Or
art.
the kids holding
We tried to give them.
They got a filet gumbo and a crawfish pie. Filet gumbo and a crawfish pie. Tastes so good to say, ooh, yeah, yeah. Hey, baby, don't you wanna go to the Cajun dance in the Zydeco? Filet gumbo and a crawfish pie. Filet gumbo and a crawfish pie.